first season of Them leans more on race trauma than actual storytelling. It's as though it hopes if it upsets the viewer enough with constant images of violence and brutality that we won't notice how hollow it truly is. Hey Twisted people, it's your Twisted Woman here, Chauncey K. Robinson, and today I am doing a spoiler-free review of the first season of the new Amazon Prime series, Them. Them is a limited anthology series that explores terror in America. The 1950s set first season centers on a black family who moves from North Carolina to an all-white Los Angeles neighborhood during the period known as the Great Migration. The family's home becomes ground zero, where dark forces next door and otherworldly threaten to taunt, ravage, and destroy them. I want to make it clear that I sat through the entirety of this first season of this show because I wanted to make sure that when I gave this review, as much as I went through in watching it, that it was as informed as possible, because this isn't going to be necessarily the nicest review. And I wanted to make sure I gave this series enough space to redeem itself if I watched the whole entire thing. It didn't. It's almost unsettling to me that someone saw the finished product of this season and said, this is it. This is the one. Let's put this out in front of people. Let me say that this is a beautiful cast, mainly the black family. Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. I'm just like, oh my God, this is such a nice looking family. And I think that is what upsets me even more, that you have this nice black family that we then are subjected to nearly 10 hours of watching them suffer, because they suffer a lot. They suffer excessively. There are no true moments of joy in this series, aside from the slickness of it and the kind of cool soundtrack that uses 1950s music that kind of sets a tone that even has a dark tinge to it. And of course, the very beautiful cast. As I said, there is no joy to be found in this series. Aside from the black family, a lot of the other characters, particularly the white characters, are caricatures more so. They don't really have depth. They're more so pick out a trope, pick out a stereotype, and let's put it on screen. And that doesn't have to inherently be a negative thing, especially if the characters are more so symbols of something than they're actual characters that we need to be spending time with or getting to know. The issue with this series is that it actually makes you spend time with the caricatures outside of them being, racist towards the black family. And you're almost given subplots with them that have nothing to do when they're throwing racial slurs at the family. And I don't know if it's made to make us somewhat sympathize with them or humanize them, but it fails at doing so. And it just seems kind of like a waste of screen time. Now, I want to put it out here that I am not someone who believes that if you show racial trauma, racial violence, racial issues on screen that kind of takes center stage for a story, that means that it is inherently going to be too much or just too intense or not good enough or not a quality story. I don't believe that at all. I think we have seen, not just in the last couple of years, but in the decades, how that can be done and done well when there's good storytelling. And I think Them misses the boat because I don't think they ask the two main questions you need to ask before you tell any story, which is, what are you trying to convey and who are you trying to convey it to? I do not think these questions were asked, and I don't think they answered them. Because had this series asked the question, what am I trying to convey, then it would have to grapple with why it has so much suffering of the black family in it. And it is so explicit, y'all. The suffering, the brutality, the violence that they endure is so explicit. And it happens all throughout the entire series. It is just laced throughout, and it is brutally put in your face as a viewer, as you witness what happens to the members of this family, particularly the mother of this family, you know? So it's like, what are you trying to convey? That this happened? You got to put it out for everyone, like right there, so everyone knows this happened. Yeah, this happened. Okay, sure, but pick your battle here. They threw everything in it. There was every sort of depravity and brutality that could happen to a black woman, that could happen to a black family. It was all thrown in to almost 10 hours of this. Is the message getting lost here because whatever message you're trying to claim you're doing, because it's just an onslaught of violence? Like I said earlier, it's so brutal that it almost feels like they want to throw this at you so hard so you forget that, honestly, once I kind of stepped back from all the brutality and just looked at the makeup of the story and what was happening here with the characters, it's pretty thin. And then the second question is who are you trying to convey it to? Who is your audience in this? And this is another question that needs to be asked that didn't get asked, because you have so much brutality and violence happening to so many black bodies on screen, the family and other black people as well. They bring in other black people to brutalize as well in this story. And you wonder, who is this for exactly? Who is this for, to watch such violence happen to these people? And this is the thing too with showing trauma like this. You can show it, it's not unheard of to show brutal scenes and violence of all types of historically influenced moments in history and non-historically influenced moments of history. You can do that. But, if you're going to subject people to it, if you're going, and depending on who your audience is, right, there has to be a payoff, right? There has to be a payoff to make this satisfying. And there's not a payoff. It almost feels like you were subjected to that and you don't get to finally breathe that at the end of it all. You should be able to breathe after that, after holding your breath through so much. There should be a moment of breathing, and that doesn't occur. Is it scary? I mean, it talks about terror in America. It has horror elements to it. There's even some horror tropes throughout it, plenty that we've seen before actually, but there's no finesse to it. The horror elements you've seen before. Some of the jumps you've seen before. And from my understanding, this series was actually greenlit like 3 years ago, but it's just now getting to the screen. And maybe, one could argue that because it took so long to get to the screen, that other things have come out before it and beat it to the punch of what it was going to convey. And maybe if it had come out earlier, it would seem a lot more groundbreaking. But I'm going to argue that it wouldn't be. I think what also worries me is that I feel like there will be white critics who will eat this up. They will eat it up because either they want to seem like they get it, and so they don't want to say or acknowledge the fact that the storyline, aside from the racial trauma, is so thin that it doesn't really connect as well as it could. And it's just so limiting. Now, like I said before, it's not like this can't be done well. We've seen it done well. Jordan Peele did it wonderfully in Get Out. And I think at least the first half of Lovecraft Country on HBO Max also did it wonderfully in mixing in the horror elements and things with racial situations, and did it in an entertaining way. And that's the key here, entertaining. Who is this entertaining to? Now, some stuff is brutal. Some stuff is art. Some stuff it's just an experience. It's just something you got to sit through. And you're not going to be happy. You're not going to crack a smile. And then some stuff just seems contrived and emotionally manipulative. There's a difference between emotionally impactful and emotionally manipulative. And at the heart of the difference, what makes that fine line is good storytelling. The triggers for this series, because there are many: graphic animal death, racism, but you probably figured that already, homophobia too, assault, lots of assault in various ways. My final twisted grade for Them season 1 is a D. Honestly, I think the only reason why I didn't give it an F is because the cast is so pretty. And it does really have pretty good cinematography. I'll give it that. Okay, Twisted People, that is my review of the season 1 of Them. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're planning on watching it. Let me know your thoughts about what I was talking about regarding racial trauma on screen and in our entertainment, and the fine line that it has. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Let me know. Comment down below. And also be sure to subscribe so that you're the first to know when I post my videos. Thanks for slicing into this storytelling with me.